Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gautama. All glories to Shri Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayaviraye Noshta Prayeshu Apatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhagavati Bhagavati Narishiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Prita Maharaj's meeting with Kumaras, text 63. Okay. And this is the last text in this chapter. Okay, let's see. Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumpis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Trailokye Tatra Tatraha.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Trailokye Tatra Tatraha.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Strinam Rama Sutam Iva.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Strinam Rama Sutam Iva.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Kirtyorva Kitaya Pumbis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Strinam Rama Sutam Iva.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva. Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Vaishnavis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Strinam Nama Satam Iva.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Kirtyor Dvakitaya Pumbis.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Trailoke Tatra Tatraha.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Pravishta Karnarandreshu.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Strinam Rama Satam Iva.
Kirtya.
Kirtya.
By reputation.
Reputation.
Urdhva Kitaya.
Urdhva Gitaya.
By loud declaration.
By
whom he, by the general public, Triloke, all over the universe, Tatra Tatra, here and there, Ha, certainly, Pravishta, entering, Karna Arandreshu, in the oral holes, Strinam, of the women, Rama, Lord Ramachandra, Sattam, of the devotees, Eva, like. Translation purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Throughout the whole universe, in the higher, lower and middle planetary systems, Prithumaraj's reputation was loudly declared, and all the ladies and the saintly persons heard his glories, which were as sweet as the glories of Lord Ramachandra. Purport. In this verse, the word Strinam and Ramaha are significant. It is the practice amongst ladies to hear and enjoy the praises of certain heroes. From this verse it appears that Prithu Maharaj's reputation was so great that ladies all over the universe would hear of it with great pleasure. At the same time, his glories are heard all over the universe by the devotees, and they were as pleasing as Lord Ramachandra's glories. Lord Ramachandra's kingdom is still existing, and recently there was a political party in India named the Ram Rajya Party, which wanted to establish a kingdom resembling the kingdom of Ram. Unfortunately, modern politicians want the kingdom of Ram without Ram himself. Although they have banished the idea of God conscious, they still expect to establish the kingdom of Ram. Such a proposal is rejected by devotees. Prithu Maharaj's reputation was heard by saintly persons because he exactly represented Lord Ramachandra, the ideal king. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Prithu Maharaj's meeting with the 4 Kumaras. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadhati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasai Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Then the text 422. 63. Throughout the whole universe, in the higher, lower and middle planetary systems, Prithu Maharaj's reputation was loudly declared, and all the ladies and saintly persons heard his glories, which were as sweet as the glories of Lord Ramachandra. So, thus ends this chapter, and then the next chapter is the last chapter about Prithu Maharaj. It's entitled Maharaj Prithu's Going Back Home, back to Godhead. So it's interesting how in the very beginning, like in the 15th chapter, when we start, when King Prithu was appeared, and what happened when Prithu appeared, do you remember? They all glorified him, no? Like professional singers, bards, and poets, and the saints, they all glorified Prithu. And how did Prithu react to this glorification? Someone remembers?
Yes. I remember.
Huh?
He said, they have to wait, he didn't do anything.
Yeah, he said, why are you glorifying me? I just appeared, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything, so you should wait until I do something, then you can glorify. Now, what's the use? And of course, now we are in the 22nd chapter, so now, again, Prithu is glorified, but this time, Prithu Maharaj can't say anything because now he did glorious activities. What were the glorious activities of Prithu?
He made the earth flourish again.
He made the earth flourish again. Yeah, he flattened the earth and established agriculture, and then also he challenged the earth, and then he milked the earth. Do you remember what was the? There was different calves that they were there to get the milk out of it, right? Do you remember what was the calf of Prithu and what was the milk? I mean, I also have to look it up. Maybe something. Prithu's calf was Swayambhu Manu, and the milk that he got was the grains and herbs from the earth. And different personalities, they milk different things. But basically, by the power and influence of Prithu, Mother Earth again gave everything to the citizens which was required. So in this way, there were many glorious activities Prithu Maharaj, and 16th chapter also this was the 16th chapter. Actually, after the glorification, there was also predictions. It was said that this uniquely powerful king will travel on his victorious chariot with his invincible bow all around the globe, exactly like the sun. All kings and demigods will offer him presentations, and their wives will glorify him. So then it's described the milking the earth, then how all the demoniac rogues and thieves will hide themselves when a lion-like King Prithu travels over his kingdom, and then he will perform 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices, and Indra will steal a sacrificial horse in the 100th sacrifice. So actually he performed 99. But still, by the blessings of Brahma, even the 99th sacrifice became more glorious than the 100th of Indra. And then he had a meeting with the Kumaras, glorified the Kumaras, and everyone will glorify him, and this is what happened here. And the last couple of shlokas compared Prithu's qualities, right? I remember when I gave class last week, Prithu was compared to the moon, very pleasing, and to the sun, powerful, and extracting the like the sun extracting water in the form of cloud distributing. Similarly, the king is also very merciful. Then Prithu was compared to fire, that no one can disobey his orders. He was compared to the earth with his tolerance. He was compared to rainfall that satisfied everyone. He was compared to Mount Meru. He was very fixed in his purpose. These are like also leadership qualities. The leader is very fixed, he's very strong. You can't move him like a mountain. At the same time, he's deep like a sea, like an ocean, very deep. No one can understand his purpose. And at the same time, he's also very merciful, like the rain we said. He's very beautiful, like a Cupid. He's fearless like a lion, powerful like Lord Brahma, and knowledgeable like Brihaspati. These were some of the qualifications. And today, in today's shloka, is compared to Lord Ram, that his glories were as sweet as the glories of Lord Ram. I personally, of course, Lord Ram is a very glorious personality, and Ramayana is a beautiful description of the glories of the Lord. I personally find it always very impressive how Lord Ram was so obedient. I mean, just to take one of the qualities of Lord Ram. Like it says that the loyal followers become great leaders. It's like a principle. And Lord Ram was extremely obedient. Like, we know the story. He was Dasharat, King Dasharat wanted to retire, and everyone agreed that they want to have Lord Ram as the king. So he was about to be appointed as the king. And what happened in the night before? We know the story. KK, she asked for the 2 boons and asked for Bharat to become the king and Ram to be sent to the forest. And so Ram was sent to see his father, and of course the father hardly couldn't speak actually. But then when the message was delivered to Lord Ram, what was his reaction?
He was happy to leave.
Yes, he said, my dear father, king, father, yes, sure, if this is your desire, tomorrow immediately I will go to the forest. Hare Krishna. Fate obeys, doesn't matter. And that's amazing. Like, I mean, you would expect, but Father, no, I'm meant to be coordinated tomorrow. I'm the king. Everyone is waiting for that. Everyone makes preparation. Everyone expecting. The citizen will not be happy with this. How can it be? No, we would start to argue in all different ways, possible ways, and even justify it, or you could say. But still, Ram did not argue for a moment, because this is an instruction by my father. Whatever my father tells me, I will follow. And that's like mind-blowing, isn't it? Like, and that shows how he gave such a perfect example of being a follower also. And then of course he gave the example of being the best ruler later on, because he was such a good follower. And we see a similar situation, in some way similar in the character of Prithu Maharaj. Can you think of a situation where Prithu also accepted the authorities, and it was quite difficult for him, like for the ego at least, it must be difficult. Yeah.
Even Indra story, the horse, and he was chasing him and everything, then Brahman came to give it up.
Yeah, right. Like he was so ambitious. I want to perform 100 horse sacrifices, and I will be glorified in the universe by 100 sacrifices. And he did 99. He had only to one. Indra stole, so it was very unjust. But then Brahma said, just be satisfied with 99. And he accepted. Okay, I'm satisfied with 99. So again, it's also a very glorious quality. Because usually we are very much stubborn in our ideas. We have some plan how our life should go. We want to do it like this, we want to do it like that. If something happened, it's very difficult to change. Yesterday, the day before, he asked me to make a new email address. I have kind of certain pride that I have one telephone number and one email address, and this has been for the last 10 years. And I always feel disturbed if people have 3 different email addresses. You never know which email you should use. It's so stupid. Why don't you have just one email address? Wonderful. And then the other person asked me to make a new email address. I was like, what? No, I just realized how inside it was like such a resistance. And I afterward I reflected. Actually, it was because of pride. So some ego. Like I only have one email address. Stupid. Okay, why not? Make another email address. But we are usually so, we have such stubborn minds. This is how I do it. If something happened, it's very difficult to change. And I very much liked Swami Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj's. He quoted this from some acharyas, as in Krishna Premarupa so that bracha means the Brajbasis. Bracha, that means they're moving, always moving, and they're moving according to the desire of Krishna. And that's what we are meant to do. As a devotees, we are meant to move according to the desire of Krishna. That's why Srila Prabhupada prayed, in his Sravadutta, when he arrived in Boston, he wrote his prayers. Oh Krishna, please, I'm a puppet in your hands. Please make me dance according to your will. That's the mood. But usually we want to dance according to our own will. We know exactly what I want, and this is how I do. And then if something happens, it becomes very difficult to adjust. But Lord Ram and also Prithu, we can see by their great personalities, without any ego, they just surrendered unto the Lord or the authorities, and in this way gave wonderful examples. So in this way, Prithu Maharaj's glories were compared to the glories of Ramachandra, and of course for many other reasons, because Prithu was also a great ruler, as Lord Ram was. And also, of course, both of them were great saintly personalities. Lord Ram was the Lord himself, and of course Prithu is the Shakti Avesha avatar. But they give him an example that the ruler needs to be a saintly person, a pure devotee, and that's called the Raja Rishi. He's a Raja, he's a king. That means he's a Kshatriya. He's a hero, as is described here. Hero means he's very brave. At the same time, he's also a Rishi, very saintly. That's the perfect ruler. And Prabhupada points out in the purport that nowadays they want to have Ram Raja, the kingdom of Ram, but without Ram. It's like completely missing the point. Yes, we want to have a perfect kingdom, everyone is happy and satisfied, everything is perfect. But what is the element that makes everything perfect is that the ruler is a Raja Rishi, that he is a saintly person. And a saintly person means that he worships the Lord, he is a devotee of the Lord. That means God is in the center. And because God is in the center, the rulership is perfect. So Ram Raja without Ram, it's not possible. And then here in this text also two kind of people, or classes of people are mentioned who like to hear the glories of a hero. That's the, Prabhupada says, the Strinam and the Rama. That means the ladies and the devotees of Lord Ram, they like to hear the glories of hero. I think like everyone likes to hear the glories of heroes, isn't it? Like everyone, that's how, we see in the material world, everyone wants to hear about heroes. That's why the whole Bollywood, the whole film industry, it's all based around hero. There's always heroes. Everyone worships their heroes, and I don't know which hero you worshipped when you were a teenager. Like when we were young adults, teenagers, then we start to have our heroes. I was into heavy metal. A poster of Metallica, Guns N' Roses. These were my heroes. I also tried to play guitar and come like them. So they did the heroes. We have certain heroes we want to follow. Well, that's quite natural. Everyone needs a leader, everyone needs someone to follow, inspiration. And of course also in Krishna consciousness, we want to feel inspired by some people, we want to follow them. So, but here especially the ladies are described and the saintly persons. Of course the ladies, they're very anxious to get married at some point, and they're looking for the great hero who enters into their life so that they have a wonderful husband. Also quite natural. And then the devotees, they're also glorifying heroes, especially the Lord, who appears in all different kinds of forms, being the greatest of all heroes. So, but what is a hero? Or who is a hero? That would be an interesting question, no? Let me see. There's an interesting purport by Srila Prabhupada where this topic is addressed. This is from 4th Canto, 25th chapter, text 25. Translation goes like follows. This is from the story of Puranjana. Puranjana, the hero, Viraha means very full of strength. He's the hero. Puranjana, the hero, became attracted by the eyebrows and smiling face of the very beautiful girl and was immediately pierced by the arrows of her lusty desires. When she smiled shyly, she looked very beautiful to Puranjana, who, although a hero, could not refrain from addressing her. So, okay, Puranjana was a hero, but then he was, attracted by the beautiful girl. Okay, purport. I won't read the whole purport. Part of it is quite like a brahmachari class, but I will read just the relevant point in regards to heroism. Every living entity is a hero in two ways. When he's a victim of the illusory energy, he works as a great hero in a material world, as a great leader, politician, businessman, industrialist, etc. And his heroic activities contribute to the material advancement of civilization. I'm too fast.
Could you remind the verse?
This is 4:25:25. I'll read it again. Every living entity is a hero in two ways. When he is a victim of the illusory energy, he works as a great hero in a material world, as a great leader, politician, businessman, industrialist, etc. And his heroic activities contribute to the material advancement of civilization. One can also become a hero by being a master of the senses, a Goswami. Material activities are false heroic activities, whereas restraining the senses from material engagement is great heroism. So basically Prabhupada describes two kinds of heroes. You can be a hero in the material world, or you can be a hero in the spiritual world. So translation's over. She's old. So, yeah, I didn't write the whole one. So basically there's two kinds of heroes. You can be a hero in the material world, or you can be a hero in the spiritual world, or in the spiritual sense. And a hero in the material world means you become very successful in the material field, and a hero in the spiritual field means you become a Goswami. You learn how to control your senses.
Prabhupada was both.
Yeah, you can also be both, right? Some personalities are both. They are great heroes in the material field and in the spiritual field. Also, yeah, Prabhupada certainly is such an example. I mean, he's really a hero. It's like amazing what he did. And Prabhupada says, Prabhupada quotes this shloka, there's a shloka quoted, Krishna Premarupa Dasa Moga Vanchakare Nikata Sta Maya Tare Chapatya Dhare. Prabhupada, this is from Prema Vivart, and Prabhupada says that actually being part and parcel of Krishna, being a spiritual soul, we're all heroes. Right? Because we're part of Krishna. And undoubtedly, Krishna is the greatest hero. No? I mean, and that's the beauty of Krishna Katha. If we read Krishna book, Bhagavatam, the glories of Krishna, it's like amazing what Krishna performed, all the different pastimes. So we can see Krishna was the greatest hero of all. I mean, there's so many beautiful pastimes. How Krishna, even as a baby, killed so many demons. And whatever Krishna does, he simultaneously performs many different activities and tasks. Like when Kaliya came and poisoned the water of the Yamuna, and all the living entities in the water died. The cows who drank water, died. And even when the Gopas, drank water, they died, or kind of, Krishna, of course, brought their life back. But then Krishna, climbing on the tree, and it's described how he was like doing like this, and tightening his belt, and then he kind of, like a hero, jumped into the water. He was just a small boy, jumped into the water. This is a poisonous water. Everyone just died from this poison. But still, Krishna jumps into this poisonous water, and there is this monster, this huge Kaliya snake with thousands of hoods, and Krishna just fearlessly jumps there, and then first of all he's kind of, how to say, Kaliya captivated. First of all, he's captivated by Kaliya, but then when he sees that the Brishbasis can't tolerate, they're faint because they're so much worried, and he kind of releases himself and he starts to dance on the hoods of Kaliya. And it's described with his foods, he kind of, he does different things at the same time. He kind of chastises Kaliya and makes him more humble, and also blesses him by his feats. But at the same time, he also attracts all the gopis. It's described that at this point, the gopis already felt attracted to Krishna before, but Vishnu Chandra describes this was the point when the gopis really fell in love with Krishna, when they saw him dance like this. That was like, this dancing was like so special. It was the most beautiful dance ever seen in the world, and when the gopis saw this dancing, they all fell in love with Krishna. So of course, Krishna is the greatest hero in all aspects. But as devotees, of course, we should try to become, first of all, a hero in the sense of becoming a Goswami. We may have many ambitions in our heart, we may have many desires that we want to achieve something here and that in this material world, And yeah, if we have got talent, Krishna gave us some talent, and we may be able to achieve a lot in the material world, and we can use it in Krishna's service. But our foremost focus should be to become a hero in the spiritual sense. To become a hero by becoming free from the influence of material nature. I read the rest of the purport after the Krishna Premarupa Dasa. It is said in Prema Vivarta that when a living entity wants to enjoy material nature, he is immediately victimized by the material energy. A living entity is not forced to come into the material world. He makes his own choice, being attracted by beautiful women. Every living entity has the freedom to be attracted by material nature or to stand as a hero and resist that attraction. It is simply a question of the living entities being attracted or not being attracted. There is no question of his being forced to come into contact with material energy. One who can keep himself steady and resist the attraction of material nature is certainly a hero and deserves to be called a Goswami. Unless one is a master of the senses, he cannot become a Goswami. The living entity can take on one of the two positions in this world. He may become a servant of his senses, or he may become a master of them. By becoming a servant of the senses, one becomes a great material hero, and by becoming a master of the senses, he becomes a Goswami, or spiritual hero. So, it's a beautiful purport. We have to decide whether we want to be a servant of the senses or a master of the senses. And if we actually become a master of our senses, then we will be able to become a true leader or a true hero also. And it's interesting that to become a dasa, the word dasa actually, we spoke about that before many times, the word dasa actually means slave. So dasa means slave or like servant. And we call ourselves dasa, no? That's at the end of our name, we have the dasa. I also told a story about my name, I think before. I asked my Guru Maharaj what is the meaning of my name, Krishna Premarupa Dasa. And I expected a very esoteric answer, because it's a very rasic name, Krishna Premarupa. What did he say? Your name means a sincere servant of the Lord. Okay. But that has nothing to do with Radharani and Mahaprabhu and Prem. Why he's not explaining about Prem? Sincere servant, okay. And only later, much later, I realized, maybe he wants to give emphasis on Dasa. Because my name is Krishna Premarupa Dasa. So the Dasa at the end, maybe that's the most important part of my name. So somehow we wanted to emphasize that part. Yes, I got a name of Krishna, beautiful name of Krishna, which is the name of Mahaprabhu actually. But Dasa is the most important part. So we become Dasa, and but sometimes we don't realize how glorious this position is, and we want to become proud. People should respect me. People should glorify me. But actually, the position of being a dasa is the most glorious position that is there. I remember when I was just a brand new bhakta, I went to Gadagiri, to India, to Orissa, and then there in the evening it was dark, there was the moonlight and the stars, beautiful and a very mystical atmosphere there, the glowworms and the palm trees. And then one devotee kind of told me, so nice you became a devotee of Krishna. This is so nice. He kind of preached to me and he said, even the devas, he showed to the star, even the devas, they're looking down and they're glorifying you. I said, that's very nice. Even the devas glorifying me. Why is that? Because you have taken to Krishna consciousness. One who becomes a servant of Krishna is the most glorious personality. Everyone glorifies him. And even the Devas, they are praying that they may be able to take birth as a human in the age of Kali. They're very eager to come. And they're seeing you becoming a devotee of Krishna. It's very glorious. Okay. But that's actually the fact. Like, in the entire universe, no position is more glorious than the position of being a servant. Of course, a servant of whom? A servant of Krishna. And a servant of the devotees of Krishna. And it happened so, by chance, yesterday, I have this reading group. Once a week we meet and we read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we read from the 6th chapter, which describes the glories of Advaita Acharya. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 6. And I will start with text 41. So I'd just like to read some of these shlokas because it's quite impressive and a beautifully description of the glories of the position of being a servant. Text 41. To maintain the proper etiquette for the principles of religion, Lord Chaitanya bows down at the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya with reverential prayers and devotion. Sri Advaita, text 42. Sri Advaita Acharya, however, considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his master, and he thinks of himself as a servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So basically, in this chapter, Advaita is glorified, and the name Advaita Acharya means that Advaita means non-different, Dvaita means one, and Advaita means not one. It's non-different. So Advaita means he's non-different from Narayan. He's the Supreme Lord also. That's why he's Advaita. And an Acharya means he's a great teacher, because he teaches the cult of bhakti. So that's the meaning of Advaita Acharya. He's not different from the Lord, and he's a great teacher of bhakti. So, but that great teacher of bhakti, he himself considers himself to be a servant. He likes to be a servant. Text 43. Sei abhimana sukhe appana pasare, Krishna Dasa hoya jive upadesha kare. He forgets himself in the joy of that conception and teaches all living entities, you are servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's the teaching of Advaita, and that's also his bliss. He feels the transcendental bliss to be a servant, and this is also what he teaches. 44. Krishna Dasa Abhimane E Ananda Sindhu Koti Brahma Sukha Nahi Are Eka Bindu. Here it says Krishna Das Abhimane. The word Abhiman, what does Abhiman mean? Like pride or identification, like. So, what kind of Abhiman should we have? I'm the greatest, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer? No. The Abhiman of I'm Krishna Dasa. And the text says, the conception of servitude to Sri Krishna generates such an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness with the Absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare to a drop of it. Okay, you have the happiness of being one with Brahman, and that's quite blissful. I mean, if you're completely free duality, if you're free from all suffering, you must be so in bliss, that Brahmananda. But here it says, even if you multiply that bliss 10 million times, it could still not be compared to a drop of that nectar of being a servant. Okay, text 45. He says, Nityananda and I are servants of Lord Chaitanya. Nowhere else is there such a joy as that which is tasted in this emotion of servitude. There is no kind of happiness that we can experience other than the Seva Ananda, the bliss of service. Text 46. The most beloved goddess of fortune resides on the chest of Sri Krishna, yet she too, earnestly praying, begs for the joy of service at his feet. And then many different more personalities are described. They are all absorbed in that blissful consciousness of being the servant of Krishna. Then text 83 describes the principle. Eka Krishna Sarva Sevya Jagata Vishwara Are Yata Sabha Tandra Seva Kanuchara. Lord Krishna, the one master and the Lord of the universe, is worthy of being served by everyone. Indeed, everyone is but a servant of his servants. And that's a very important point which is emphasized in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that actually there's only one master and there's only one enjoyer, and that happened to be Krishna. And everyone else is Krishna's servant. And yeah, of course, we have heard that many times, right? We have heard that before, but if we actually understand this one point, it changes our life, it changes our consciousness. Because the problem with the conditioned soul is that we still think that I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, and I'm the center of the universe, and whatever I see is meant for my enjoyment, and I want to control it. But if you understand that Krishna is the supreme, he is in the center, he is the controller, he is to be served, and I'm simply a servant, then we achieve perfection. So that's why it's so important to hear this again and again. Then text 97 describes the glories of being a Bhakta. E sabakha shastrikai Bhakta avatara, Bhakta avatara pada uparisapara. The scriptures call them incarnation as devotees, Bhakta avatar. The position of being such an incarnation is above all others. So there are different personalities described, and it says that the point is that even Krishna himself is eager to experience that joy of serving him. That's why in many different ways the Lord appears as Bhakta Avatar. He himself wants to be a servant. And then from text 100 onwards, beautiful descriptions are given how Krishna is eager. Text 100, the position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna, for the devotees are dearer to the Lord than his own self. Lord Krishna considers his devotees greater than himself. In this connection, the scriptures provide an abundance of evidence. And then some shlokas are given, Natatami Priyatama, Atmayoni Shankara, that O Uddhava, neither Brahma nor Shankara, nor Sankarsana, nor Lakshmi, nor even my own self is as dear to me as you. Krishna tells to Uddhava. And then it's described, the sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only to the sentiment of servitude. Text 107, it says, what to speak of others, even Lord Krishna himself becomes thirsty to taste his own sweetness. He tries to taste his own sweetness, but he cannot do so without accepting the emotion of a bhakta, or a devotee. Therefore, Lord Krishna accepted the position of a devotee and descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya, who is complete in every respect. So, very nice description. So from this we can see that even Krishna himself wants to become a devotee, because that bliss that can be experienced in service to Krishna, even Krishna wants to experience that. So this way we can see who is the greatest hero. The greatest hero is someone who becomes a das, a servant, especially a servant of the servant of Lord Krishna. And in such a position, what happens, even Krishna becomes eager to glorify such a devotee. Basically, there is a competition between Krishna and the devotee. Like the devotee wants to glorify Krishna, but then Krishna wants to glorify that devotee. And Krishna will always put that devotee in such a situation that he will be glorified by others. And Krishna gets great happiness by seeing his devotee glorified. So although a devotee has no interest in glorification, and he tries to avoid this pratishta, the desire for honor, right? That's a great stumble block on the path of bhakti. It says, the attraction to the opposite sex, wealth, but even more difficult to overcome is pratishta, that desire to be glorified by others. It's a great hindrance. If you develop that desire, oh, people should glorify me. So although the devotee is carefully avoiding that, he doesn't want to be glorified. He doesn't has a desire to be glorified. Krishna is very eager to glorify him. And the devotee will be glorified, like no one else will be glorified. And that's the position of a devotee. And this is what happened here to Prithu Maharaj. Of course, because he was such a wonderful king, everyone glorified him, everyone respected and praised his wonderful qualities. And these qualities were compared to Lord Ramachandra. And for us, the lessons that we can take from this shloka is that we should aspire to become truly servants of the Lord, and then the Lord will be very pleased with us. And although we may not hanker for the glorification, but Krishna certainly will be very pleased and will glorify our service as well. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta said, you shouldn't try to see Krishna, but you should try to live in such a way that Krishna wants to see us, that we become recognized by Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments?
Thank you very much. I had one comment and two questions, but then they are very interrelated, so maybe I will just frame the question together. And the comment was, now I was listening to Prabhupada's lecture on Ajamila, that section, and because he was speaking about this aspect of becoming a Goswami. And this morning I was listening, Prabhupada was stating how when the Vishnu Dutas came and he was describing how it is up there. And he said that you must have seen a beautiful woman, but in the upper planetary portions, they're even more beautiful. The men and women, they're even more beautiful. Mm-hmm. And they coexist together, but they are unattracted. Yeah. And then, because you also extensively spoke on service, and as far as my memory goes, Prabhupada says that because they are so deeply engaged in service and glorification of the Lord, that they do not feel attracted to each other.
That's a beautiful point. Actually, it says that even the most beautiful women in this world, like there is this competition, like the Miss Switzerland or the Miss Universe also. No, she's very beautiful. Yeah, they call Miss Universe.
Yeah, I know.
They call Miss Universe. They're Miss World, you know, like amongst all the countries, there's like the most beautiful girl. They call it Miss Universe. But then actually, Bhagavatam says, you know, like compared to the ladies in the heavenly planet, these women, they look like a frog. Frog? Quack, quack. Frog. Like, has a frog any beauty? You know? It's like ugly. So compared, you know, we may find beauty in this world, but compared to the heavenly planets, it's no comparison. Also speak of Vaikuntha. Also in the third canto of Bhagavatam, we find a description of the Vaikuntha Vasis, and that point is also made. That, you know, imagine, we mainly hear about the Vaikuntha Vasis as four-handed, like look like Vishnu, but there's also female, Vaikuntha Vasis, and they must look like the goddess of fortune. And they live together, men and women. But the men, they are so absorbed in service, as you mentioned, that their only meditation is Krishna, and there is no question. Okay, that's a nice one.
And my questions were, because I was thinking you mentioned about this sentiment of servitude, like you have to really develop that. And I was thinking that actually that's what we're doing in our lives, especially living in the temple, to really ingrain in us this sentiment of becoming a servant. And just a thought ran in my mind that actually somehow, at least speaking of myself, I choose my sentiment of servitude. Like towards the Lord it's there, towards some devotees it's there, but it's not like a perennial or permanent attitude, I feel. Like I still choose where I choose to be this a servant. That's one thing. And just related to this is also, you mentioned how when we truly realize that we are the servant of the Lord, and I was also thinking that actually comes from faith, that I am the servant of the Lord and Krishna will take care of everything. So then there should be no insecurities, no fear. So once we really surrender that and realize actually that we are the servants of the Lord, then nothing else will matter. Like there will be no expectations, there will be no issues in life basically. But then I was thinking on a personal level that although I really want to develop this attitude of servitude and really want to just, like you said, that to become an instrument, just be okay with being treated however, like a lot. Even Prithu Maharaj, he was okay, he heard it, it's not something he wanted, but he surrendered, he was okay with it. So surrendering to Krishna's will and also the Guru's instructions. And I was thinking that although I deeply desire to really, not just this instruction which I got once or just the will of the Lord once, but also really imbibe it as a way of life in itself, this servitude, that this instrumentality in a way. But I was thinking on a personal level, I also have fear and insecurities, not towards the Lord, but towards the world in a way. That what if I become like this? And I mean, of course, that comes from the fact that I don't trust the Lord enough. But just not that the Lord will mistreat me, but others around will mistreat me. So how should I really work on this maybe in a way?
Okay, so these are a few very nice points. First of all, you mentioned about we are selective. Sometimes we are in a service mood. Like for those of us who are pujaris, like as soon as we enter the altar, naturally we have that mood of service, right? You know, there is the Lord. You know, this is not Krishna, not different Krishna deities. So we go there in a very mood of service. But then, you know, in our daily activities, maybe interaction with others, we may not manifest that mood so much. So it's a nice observation. That the idea would be to really enter into this mood that I'm a servant always, because that's my identity actually, and any other idea or concept is part of illusion. And the other point is you mentioned about the doubt or the maybe fear that if I become such a servant, because the world is very cruel, I may be misused, right, by the world. Well, maybe one thing and that's similar to, you know, humility, like what happens if I become humble, if I become too humble, then the world will, you know, maybe mistreat me. Because in this world you have to be strong, you know, if you're proud and strong, then you're protected. That's kind of the material conception. But you should always remember that when we actually humble, then we attract the Lord's mercy and actually become empowered by the Lord. And then we become the most powerful personality in this world. So like being humble or being a servant doesn't equal weakness. Rather, it's the opposite. It means becoming most powerful actually. Of course, and powerful in a humble way, not that now I have become most powerful, but you understand that I'm just an instrument in the hands of the Lord. But if you're actually an instrument in the hand of the Lord, it's very powerful. Because the ego is not in between, and Krishna can fully work through you, and then you manifest all the Shakti. That's why it's called Shakti Avesh, avatar. You know, like someone who actually becomes a 100% transparent medium, he becomes a Shakti Avesh avatar. He carries the Shakti of the Lord, he carries the full energy of the Lord. So becoming a servant or becoming humble does not mean that we become weak, but actually it means we become fully empowered. And if we understand this, then we will be very joyfully become humble and a servant, because it gives us a lot of strength. And of course we know that strength comes from Krishna. It's not my strength, but it's the strength of Krishna. And that gives me a lot, because humility means I see Krishna, I'm with Krishna, I'm in touch with Krishna. And being connected with Krishna makes me feel less. There is no question of being afraid. I know that Krishna will protect me. Does that make sense?
Sorry, just on this I had one, let's say concern, because I was thinking of how, for example, even when humility, and I'm not saying I've practiced it, but from what I've observed, from what we hear, there are tests also that come in the path. Like even for Srila Prabhupada, the mood of service and humility was so deep, but he also had tests. But then, so I was thinking, where does one derive the strength to withstand the test? Because, I mean, to really understand empowerment, at least because I'm at this level where I don't know about it, I'm thinking it takes time.
Yeah.
And also when the test comes, then it could be just so bewildering. So where does the strength come for the test?
Hiranyakashipu asked the same question. Where is his strength coming from? This Bala. he tried to kill Prahlad so many times and he was not successful. So he asked him, where do we get the strength to resist my power? And what was Prahlad Maharaj's answer? Well, it comes from the same source as your power. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Tejas Tejase. It means that Nishingadev is the source of all power. Tejas Tejase. He is the source of all power. So the Lord is the source of that power. So where do we get the strength from to resist any temptation or to pass the tests? And yes, certainly on the path of devotion, there will be many, many tests that we have to overcome and face. So how to overcome? From where do we get that strength? From the Lord. And you may say, well, it's an obvious answer. I have also know, I know that. But then maybe the question is how to access that strength from the Lord. It is if we fully surrender and take shelter. The other day we spoke about this, no? I think Aniruddha Prabhu spoke about that point. He gave a beautiful class, emphasizing the point that we have, if we really take shelter in the Lord will also give us all empowerment and strength. And I'm sure all of us have made some experience with that. Because it's a question of how much do I really, what is the quality of my prayer? How much do I actually take shelter in Krishna? And if I really cry and really ask for help, then help will come. But the problem is that we don't really cry enough. We don't ask really, just to offer a prayer, please help me. Krishna is not taking that so serious. But if you actually cry, really cry, then, okay, now he means me. Prabhupada gives the example of a mother with a child. The child may cry, but the mother can understand whether it's really serious. And if the child cries really, and the mother knows, oh, now she needs my help. So similarly, Krishna knows. So depending on our taking shelter, and the more we actually take shelter, then Krishna will reciprocate and give us that strength that we need. But our problem is usually we are, instead of, when there is temptation is coming, or the test is coming, instead of taking shelter, we start to play with Maya, and we, or maybe we try to take shelter somewhere else. We try to, get the strength from our own endeavor. But only if we helplessly take shelter of Krishna, we get that power. Okay, I think I will then stop here. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari.
Krishna Premarupa Dasa Prabhu ki
Jai.
Gaur Bhakt Vrinda ki jai. Kalpatruscha
You can read just in the wax definition.
Sì.
And looking at the output.
No, io ho trovato che però che potrebbe finire facendo. Literado caminho però che potrebbe. Ah, c'è.
Questions I want to become servant, but I'm not sure whether my mind is part of it or Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a classical question. In the sense of, because it's difficult, yeah. We have different voices inside. Actually, from psychology, it has different personality. I say, yeah, like different part of our personality. And they may sometimes have different interests. And sometimes we become conflict. One part of me wants to go in this direction, another part of me wants to go in that direction. But then, what should I do? Yeah, to discriminate which voice actually is really coming from Krishna. Yeah, it's actually like Saki Prabhu answered the question someday. He said when there is speculation going on, then that's the mind. And intuition, or like Krishna speaks, it's a very strong and very clear message. So there's a difference, like something you think, maybe this, maybe that. And sometimes you just, it's clear, you should do this. So this clear inclination, clear feeling, that's usually something. When the mind is more thinking this, that. But of course still it's kind of difficult. And that's why, I mean, if it's really important decision in life, then we need to try to get advice from the Vaishnavas. It says if we want to really know what Krishna wants us to do, we should ask 7 brahmanas. Because brahmanas represent the mouth of the world. But they also speak the words of Krishna. And if we ask 7 different brahmanas their opinion, the majority gives us advice, we can feel that, oh, okay, maybe Krishna wants me to go in this direction. And of course then is also good spiritual master. Because how do we know how to serve Krishna? That Guru can tell us. I have some daily quotes coming from on my email from my Gurudev. There was yesterday was a statement. If you don't know what to do, whether go in this direction or that direction, make a decision, but make sure it is pleasing to Krishna. At the end of the day. Because Krishna gives us a freedom, free choice. Whether it is or that, Krishna gives freedom, but it should be pleasing to Krishna. And that's more a question of consciousness. Not so much of, we are very much concerned with like the external. Like this ashram or that ashram.